of President Julius Maada Bio. Now, final news for today. Over the weekend, Moyamba, they finally honor waiting God in what said in the Bible, let there be light. There was light. Inside the Quran, Bible, all scripture now say we light come. His Excellency President Bio for years, people ignore the wake up lights. But over the weekend, His Excellency commissioned 1 megawatt solar energy generator plants in Mayamba, and he called a significant milestone in the journey towards sustainable energy and economic transformation of the country. So for the 1 day we keep that day not to theory, Mayamba no be get lights. Today they get lights. Basically, we talk about Mayamba at this press conference here. We got one journalist will be there for the ask for that Mayamba plans. Anything they put in up and ask who said this Mayamba lights they come on. So today they hope to be put up in army, they tell President we'll take you. For we talk and you don't deliver for the people of Mayamba. We will continue to expand on energy access in this country. And the vision we get for eliminating blackout at the capital city. But energy not so just about the capital city. We get challenges in the air. But the more President Bill can empower, expand significant energy access to the country. That is not a theory and in a fact. Anybody will look at that know that the people in Geneva they not be get lights, they get lights. The people in Abond, they not be get lights. They don't get lights connection. That na reality of what His Excellency President Maada Bio don't do. That short brief. Now we come to the panel for Kanye from the outstanding leader we will get. For starts the conversation, we will start with the biggest of the alleged original panel. We are the Honorable Minister for Youth Affairs. This man, family know him force. He don't deal in the wood sector. He don't commodity. He can in the communications, technology, and innovation sector. And he please the Excellency based on the work we don't do and the way the battle observer. For let it now make let it be the leader of the most important sector in the country, in my opinion, the youth sector. They make up a significant percentage of the population and a part of His Excellency flagship. So when you see a look at young man, fine young man like this, imagine our left hand will know that day. He's happily married. Fine young man. The past say let this fine young man here, let it take over in the youth sector. May God once again congratulations. The question was all the youth people in the country they listen. Today they want to know you are the new minister. We don't observe the sector. Waiting na you priority. Which you don't see, waiting them for. Expect, say we Minister Sanoka, and then Tia he can prioritize, and then Tia he can do. We get time and I understand, Minister. So the time under. You are the only one of the panels, they only give 10 minutes. Because this time you made a landing. But then you explain to your constituents the controversial law they expanded as a video. And they listen to you for the first time today. But I know say, knowing you very well, you come with a very clear message for them. So take you 10 minutes and talk to the young people of this country.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, colleague. All the organizers for this program. This has been one of the most educative programs and we have to recycle. really say the family na falabari, yeah, or kokuna susote, gonna follow one or necessarily for understand. And thank you again. And so I begin for class week Thursday. So, but from the 8th of April when the appointments come up, the very first thing I do, I will look at what is going to go on the sector as a whole. And I have for this opportunity for tell you plenty thank you. Because one part of the documents that we read and why we rely on for duality at work, where I use my strategic vision and the national youth policy of which I can be the architect. And we also go to them call the status of youth report when they had a common party. So the national youth policy look at various interventions there of youth, the concerns we work with man in the group, whether they express and how the government or other solidarity people for help them for people for content in their day. And so secondly, the status of youth report come on and look at the national youth policy. Because okay, the national youth policy does say all this, but they're not there how much youth man they say this, or how much youth man they be asked for say this. So however, they will self see what we will do. And so the status of youth report basically they will not get a steering committee meeting. We mean say at the highest level with all donors and political ministers when you say chair the program, the meeting today we therefore look at the findings of the report and also for presenter to everybody really forget the feedback. And interestingly, Mr. Minister, when you're there, we have very interesting feedback that we come by the question and answer session, where we actually quiz some of the two consultants that we did there. So what's not your vision that we carry it as Minister of Youth? So I get 3-year vision, we begin from June of 2025 to June of 2028. And this 3-year vision anchored on four key components. We say number one, agriculture. But before we go to agriculture, the title of the 3-year vision, we call it Youth Entrepreneurship. So we say one for making young man who create work for himself. Because first of all, the one thing we need is bright body, win and grassroots. If you relate interpret them to things and they don't fit your man they don't feature on the hand it in, and they're able for pathfind or fair solutions for your problems for carrying in the future. So number one, we say we don't ever put them free. So even the agriculture is not going to be free. So now we call it youth and entrepreneurship. So we think they feel this, we look at the outcomes and how we will support entrepreneurship drive. One, agriculture. So we are agriculture now forget value chain, value addition. In the sense, we get for agriculture sexy. What's it happening by that? We mean say, if now rest we plant, if now rest you have go, we get for put out a call, we consult all across. Although the youth man that we're interested in the rest, youth man that we're interested in vegetable, not that we're interested in pepper, not that we're interested in cash crop, not that we're interested in various other agricultural activities and value chain, not even the fishes aspect. So when we say, hold on, do this, we will first of all incubate what we call incubating system. We will bring one on one side, go and we can for them 2 or 3 months. When they do what we call hands-on training. So with the training, first of all, what we call a greenhouse. So that comes to the technology that will support the agriculture. What we make of youth man really engage in agriculture right now because it's labor intensive. And the report shows that you get 44% out of this country right now, 35% of women are youth, 18 to 35 years. And out of that 35%, you get 56% with food poor. We mean say, for when they eat food past a big, as people are sorry here, they cannot produce, they don't even generate money for feed themselves. And you get 52% where basically also we're poor. When we see that they will get nothing, they will rely on charity or other things. So now we bring this. So the value addition basically, and for you for grow the product and grow all year long. And here we take example of Lunge. I guess some young man never visit last week, like where they grow tomatoes, where they grow cucumber, their last tomatoes, cucumber, and other small vegetable. And a woman there, and I'm glad if honorable minister will tell you, say, be your intervention for this 5 years, for these 3 years, and therefore be 70% women and 5% disability. Means say everything we do across the youth sector now, women are for 70% and then disability for 35%. And so agriculture we will say value addition, one for many people they grow rice, grow pepper, grow also to call cash crops. In addition to that, they also grow to call economic trees. When you say, for example, bamboo, you grow a tea, you give you money, and you attract carbon credit. Number two, Mr. Minister, the other vision of climate change. Agriculture and climate change, you need for diversity and go hand in hand. If you embark on agriculture, you have to report tickling and this, and we're also expecting for plant tickling and also adopt what we call climate smart agricultural practices. When you say you grow, we work with each chiefdom youth-led farms, we also be able to level to call climate core. When we say like let traffic on the road safety core, so a climate core, a youth climate core, we will be trained and for advocates, not just for adapt to best climate practices, but also it will be like one way we represent the entire climate aspect for training and the understanding. Mr. Minister, the third one is skills development. We all know say knowledge is the most significant tool or weapon for fighting poverty. Even them man say work no day. Now, this we have bloggers in Nigeria. That's my knowledge. You just grab a blogger today. They're there for training you, how you use the internet, how you do Facebook Live, even how the data how you do editing and things like that. So believe say skills. So how we intend for rural names and Mr. One for make sure say two policies that will be pushed. We will forget TVET center trainings now every district in this country. Who side God will make the money, the government supports them, and other donors support them. So one TVET center has to be largely agriculture driven, but you get also skills. Because even the one way they operate the machine there, that's the skills. If you operate tractor, you operate the harvesters, you operate the dryers, that's a skill. So it's an all-round skill. But also one for level man, the reason why it's the 70%, then male-dominated profession, like masonry, plumbing, tiling, electrician, carpentry. One for encourage as much more women have also partake in that. One for also the woman that really engage for the movie for make easy themselves, for repair stuff. So the model basically where we don't train you and then we support you to seed what we call startup kits. We can't give you the money just cash directly because from the reports they want to be, most of the money is already the farmers and children cash transfer in Ghana, but we don't engage in the farming. Of course, very well, and the minister actually mentioned that today. So we use the community banks where the farming was set up, and then they support through private sector intervention. For example, if this community, like Jimmy Babo, Mr. Community, Ubangale, with man they want to go to Banga, we prepare the land for them, support them with family goods, and get their own greenhouse, support their land, and let them plant. They go through the process of they wait Banga rep, then also the pots and they sell and give me, when you saw the new SLPMC criteria. When they will buy Banga from there, and the profits will go, they get like 80% or only 10%, or even for do that one there, let's say for continue. The last thing that tech and innovation. All of them are with maps right now. The digital stuff here. It's tech and innovation there. And I watch all online and youth there. So how do we encourage youth there for engaging a lot of tech and innovation there? When we say we train in digital marketing, coding, cyber security, especially the one we don't know college. We don't even know what to do next. So we can kind of a career path. But the very big policy we want for rollouts by this Mr. Minister, and for make sure say every university level gets a course counselor. So at that level, the students will be counseled as to which course really good do. And for a fact, for plenty of people read history and college, history, politics, or this and conflicts and all, when you come up, what you get to come in another course. Label and placements in our society. So it actually starts at the university level. So policies there, I didn't see about as far. What we intend for doing for these 3 years now, agriculture, climate change and adaptation, skills development and employment, and then tech and innovation.
Wow. Thank you very much to the Honorable Minister of Youth Affairs. Young people, the Minister, succinct, data-driven, concrete. You know, the type of every day. You see, in 3 years, 3 major priorities: agriculture, climate smart investments, skills development. Another headline for the youth mandate. You see, the days of youth mandate dominating London. You see, 70% will be led by few. then 5% persons living with disabilities. So we match orders in the sector. We don't hear you from the minister. We will get a chance for asking questions in a minute. Now we'll talk about climate. I'm happy because the minister and I provide a real overview for this conversation. Every speaker I had, the minister will touch on the sector. Touch on everybody in the sector, provide the vision and the aspiration. Dr. Abubakar Masakoi, the Executive Chairman of the Environmental Protection Agency, sir. We want to know, rain not begin come. The country, they face all kinds of climate-related challenges. Every year we see dramatic changes in the happen. Help we for the family understand what's are the Environmental Protection Agency on our role and within our plans for help we in their challenges they will see for let the country adapt and for let the country able for be protected for the adverse effects of climate change. As a chairman, we'll use 7 minutes.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for the opportunity for sharing insights into what EDP do, but also for contribute to discussions regarding the President's amazing vision for multi-level environmental governance in the country. This is for describe what EDP do or what our responsibility is good for set the tone of the response on what thing we mean by climate change and how are the different from weather, so that we all understand. And also we all use that buzzword. We quick for toxic that climate change. So there's some significant climatic impact. One might just say we probably don't really understand the distinction. So when we say weather, now we daily experiences of some atmospheric conditions. Sometimes the sun, the shine, that's smart today, and our weather. So ten rain before dawn, that's it now weather. So ten breeze they come. We don't really care about whether the breeze heavy or not heavy, but breeze just a blow. That's it now weather. We observe the over the long term, over months, possibly decades, we can call that the climate or climatic condition. So when you begin to see shifts, something you don't just foresee releases in the car over 4 or 5 months, and now you begin to see you don't get erratic, you just take out for 2 months. Or something come up as smack now, past how you don't observe over 4 or 5 months. We call that shift day in that longer term pattern of the climate change. We work at the Environment Protection Agency concern climate change, not concern how you predict weather or how you report variabilities in weather. So we really look at the agency, how climate change they happen. We include measuring risks, so finding compound and cascading risks. I'll come to that one day in a moment. And most of what we're interested in world climate change, just for provide some further context. Now, when we set more because now we want to contribute to it. They are to equal anthropogenic conditions. For instance, between 2001 and 2023, Global Forest Watch say we don't clear about 1.1 million tons of forest resources. If you further contextualize that one day in terms of real emissions, multiplied by the emissions factor, we don't need to go into that science day, you will get something like 3.3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. In the same period, we don't produce about 500,000 tons of charcoal annually. If you do the same process and multiply it by the emissions factor 5.7, you get something like 2.8 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. All of it here, if you provide further context, can mean impacts on mortal man, on the societies, on the communities. For instance, it can increase with PM 2.5 concentrations, the nature of pollutants within the air. It can even be dust, in the simplest of terms. And that one day, WHO say it contributes to about 4 million deaths annually. 4 million people will die globally. They die because of the nature and extent of pollutants within the air. And Salome contributes substantially to that. Because of the kind of stove they all use, the kind of solid fuels, so they burn, the tick they only cut. The tick they because also have implications on food security, energy security, because we clear the forest better than you can. So most of the blackouts they only see or the brownouts or the experience can result from the kinds in the day. So what if we do an Environment Protection Agency fundamentally? Now 4 or 5 things. Number one, we now the government agency we responsible for help the country for understand how climate change will occur. So we responsible for climate risk measurement. So we look into things like compound risks, how things like rainfall, windstorms, sea level rise, they occur, how they prevail, what's the intensity, how they affect human environments, and all of that data and information, they put them into formats where comprehensible to the different agencies, different sectors responsible for acts on behalf of government for respond to their concerns. And we put them into some kind of place, some kind of platform for make them accessible to owner within a civil society, whether you're a journalist we require information, or you're an agency or department within government, we require that kind of insight for plan properly and for respond adequately. We can also use that data as the second function for help government for the thing we call risk management planning, for design policies, design plans, design strategies, for able to deal with the conditions that they will observe over time, where they identify through the assessments they did. And probably some of you don't hear about what we can call nationally determined contributions. So the NDC basically how government plan for response to climate concerns at scale. What in government feels able to do over a 3 to 5 year period. And at this, every other country in the world they develop for sure say then said they contribute to the efforts when they happen globally. We call them nationally determined contributions. We don't get the first NDC, we don't get the second one, we're about for develop the third generation of the NDC. The focus on that one mostly can be how we want to achieve climate resilient development. We focus practically on reducing emissions, but we also can identify outcomes where we want to produce for able for help communities to adapt using their own resources, using their own means, using the capabilities we are accessible to them, what we can call adaptation, or just probably for build their response capacities. We can put all of them things into what we call a national adaptation plan.
Minutes.
Okay, thank you. I will forget specific policies. Your climate strategy development. So what can be described just what in government provide as a response over the short term. But government also to think about how to respond to the concerns there over the long term. How to achieve things like emissions neutrality. How to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. So government also through the Environment Protection Agency develop what we call long-term low emissions development strategy. But we also do climate mainstreaming. So we can develop toolkits, we develop guidelines for help the respective actors, we work on different levels, for able for translate that data or they provide to them into concrete actions at the level, able for deal with their own issues, deal with their own problems. We also responsible for scale access to climate finance. So we are the focal point to some of the climate funding mechanisms. We all when they run after, all when they pursue for people to get money for implement climate interventions, like the Global Environment Facility, the Green Climate Fund, etc.
Will succeed on this climate funding request? Climate finance.
Of course,
what is the state of the success as a country?
In the recent past, last year we win, that being actually the first singular grant or win from the Green Climate Fund, about $28.6 million. We therefore help for intervening across 75 coastal communities. And this is so important because if we don't do nothing also about the climate issues, the risks will prevail now across coastal communities. About 300,000 Sardinians will be displaced by 2050. So it's absolutely significant. We also don't mobilize money with Cooper Valley, African Development Bank, and SFNet, therefore use for strengthening early warning systems from the GCF. They also therefore use them for set up, for strengthening or enhance the integrity of the dams within gates currently. We don't mobilize plenty of the projects. It's in the millions, we have to mention. Thank you.
Doc, no say you get plenty for talk. And clearly, as you begin talk, people are going to say this bra is ability to talk about. You're an expert in your own field. And as Shaw say, that basic explanation the way you give the difference between climate and weather, we will constantly put her out as part of the civic education mandate for the family to understand and do this. EPA and the Ministry of Information and Civic Education therefore work closer together with the Ministry of Environment for them to do more climate awareness, climate education, a part of the civic education plan that day. So we look forward for work with you and for figure out how Salon will be better placed for address the issue that we just mentioned. So we will come to Deputy Director General Bakar, and then we will end with you. So you will be able for, because you have a comment both on the youth side and on the climate side, since you did outside. So Salon and country this way, people only check the weather safe. Only check the weather. In fact, if it's not somebody say the weather after me say you get from Kabili, say
Tu entends beaucoup de poèmes. Tu entends beaucoup de poèmes. Tony, no steady.
We'll get them.
Always getting gambling.
You don't smoke.
I drink a good drink. How much is it?
That is.
How much? How much?
What's about?
Yeah.
Not serious.
A gamble.
Not gum? If only because this is the 2 days.
Life then, no embarrassing. Look at this school and school they push me it's not going to bank. What's the talk? Dynamic reports. We see. I don't go off. We like to come out. We like to meet. I won't move to you. Almost.
power tip. We are made for understanding and pretty much all of the capital city go just now. As the spokesperson for the government of Salone, I want to apologize to the people of Salone for that. I want to apologize to Unanaya for this about 15 minutes or so with the program being paused. Now we will continue from the side with tap. As I may say, Mr. Gabriel Baka. Salomon, if you tell and say the weather says so, it tells you will not believe that day. Part of the reason, over time, we not believe say we get the ability, the equipment for predict the weather, for advice. Talk to family about waiting your agency in role B. How can they support we for let we understand whether waiting they happen and waiting get for building a role, even as we continue to confront some of the challenges of climate change in the country. You get 7 minutes.
Yes, thank you so very much, Honorable Minister. So as always, the Met Agency is so much happy for their, at least for them to understand what they do. Firstly, the Met Agency, we as an scientific institution, and we as service provider to several institutions, of course, across the country. As we got a bit about climate change there, now we deal with the science of climate change. And also now we try to drive most of the climate change policies that we get in the country. So firstly, for just setting ground about the beliefs about what they do, first thing I'm going to do is the weather app we use. The one way they na its own and the satellite data and they always they overestimate because Salone when they send the data to the GTS. Now the more in that way is the Met Agency we get with dedicated information that they will push to the public. And for said the same, it will not also not say the Met Agency will do work. One, we get 77 weather stations across the country. These are automated weather stations. And once we will make electronic Met Agency, no plane, not the kind of Salone and land and take off without information. We give information for safe landing and takeoff, and also we give information, of course, for a road flight. And other than the weather station, the second aspect has to do with the train staffs. And we get started in train, it meant just like a licensing job, like a medical doctor. So we have people that are trained to the highest level. The highest level of training is a chartered meteorologist, of which my brother is a chartered meteorologist, and also, of course, the director general is a chartered meteorologist. So with the stations, and also we have the trained staff, we also get the standard operating procedure we follow. So people will not see whatever way we give weather forecast is the same way the US, the UK, Nigeria, and Ghana give. Because the standard operating procedure and the UN organ where they call the World Meteorological Organization now in always design the standard operating procedure. So fast forward now into the season when we try to look into 2025. Honorable Minister, we will not say on the 6th of May, we launched this outlook, especially people understand what are they expecting for the rainy season so they will plan themselves. And normally now the norms that made for all meteorological services. If you are in the European world, they have 4 seasons, they give 4 seasons output. For every year they need 2. Before they dry and also before the rainy season. And this year we use 30 years data across the country. Of course, as Dr. Masawa is up, we can also support it with data and other people there. Just so they see whether, what is the weather forecast, whether in one term meteorology, the state of the atmosphere, waiting the happen now. So one for tell people what he expects for that particular rainy season for this year. So we use 30 years data from 1994 to 2024 for not trying to do a prediction for Sierra Leone. And before we do that prediction, firstly, we train with data, of course we use machine learning model and NWP. So from 1994 to 2023, we do very well in training for local forecast for 2024, 9 points will come with the conclusion for 2025. So for the rainy season, we group it into 3 regions because we have to do the risk. The firstly for the May, June, July for 2025, we observe for the start date of the rain, we'll try to look at the average itself.
So the average for the past 30 years, now we don't get the average rainfall. We have people declaring rainfall in Canada. So when we look at the average for the past 30 years, we have for the May, June, July. We observe the places like Wenadugu, the Fala, and Karine, Bombalini, and Tokoni below average rainfall. The average for those areas used to be like 1,000 in July, they are going to record below. But other us Freetown, the western area, the Moyambabu, Kaila, don't forget above average rainfall. The June, July, August was the whole country. We don't forget about rainfall, above rainfall, and also for the just we don't forget above rainfall. So within this system regime, we do a kind of climate monitoring assessment for given risk, because the risk is hinged on the current situation of the forecast, waiting at the land use changes, how to reduce the land, follow the risk. The first risk we observe is there is a high likelihood of flooding, because they just below the show above normal rainfall. And most of the assessment they will do around Freetown, the culvert, the drainage system, they already don't block. Would they be in swampy areas there? And not only for Freetown, other areas there, for we get intense rainfall, don't forget, of course, the high likelihood of rainfall. And also because of the sudden change, we look into the temperature within the rainy season, especially when we start this May until the June, we don't forget above normal normal temperature. Except when it gets into August, you don't forget that cooling system where you can. But the night hours will be kind of humid. So that trigger a risk when a strong wind prevalence. You may get an instability in the atmosphere, in the warm, in the cold, so they cause that convection, follow the strong wind. So strong wind is prevalent, but especially in the month of September. We are not happy, but just that we have our one for communication and say we're so much impressed with the performance of the model. We launch it on the 6th, and then just before after that, we just see already havoc around the country. And also we see added to understand and likely, because when we get our bank, let's not be in the census 1827, and for all West African meteorological services, Ghana, we are just a department under the Met Agency. Within this October, the model of is over the early to understand and likely. And of course, we launch and they will switch the happen and color. And then finally, this is the upwelling. So upwelling normally they do with the get the force with on the area. So because we get a warm cool, and then the system temperature for the warm and cool. So as you go into the rainy season, we have a cool system, and they phase away the warm system. Because that's so they rush under the sea. So maybe they go see them grass and they come up, anything they under the sea. So another thing they will see at the Met Agency, and also as they try for really conclude because we don't they come up. Now we say we focus on the give. Firstly, we use the best models there. And the agency get more than 7 models. We use the UK Met model, of course, the UK they use. We use the Eastern European model, one of the best model, for example, they use in Europe. And now we already developed a prototype machine learning model we will develop. Using we pass data for a kind of propagation. And from the Met Agency, we go continue. But it's not outlook, not just run a plan for the season. Once we go into the rainy season, we give the 7 days forecast, we give the daily weather forecast, and also they give the warning to the public so that this one will take necessary actions. Of course, if I get time, I will also share with you now because with some recommendations from the minister. Now this week, there are some recommendations that we need for the country so that we will see the system. Thank you very much.
You know, President Leone, he appoints competent young people. Not so. You can disagree with what you like, but the fact is in there. From 1827, we don't get met, but Mr. Deputy DG, all the beautiful analysis you want to do, the model you want to predict, and I'm not even share with women and the Minister of Information, how the people they go know. Because if you have the best science and the best model, or no, the blogger, I want to be know, when I get her, the bloggers. See, we get the assets that we can use. We see they talk so very impressive. They don't do at all. And everything we talk, we don't say this year Thunder Medical was not so early. We're all surprised the rain pattern not change. Also surprised with Science Day now in April. We get a competent men's agency. Or we only use the app for checking the weather. But if you send someone like, we say, they have been at the app, I believe. It don't really tell you the app is not as accurate as what they do. So one of the things that we will do, my colleague them they are going to we go sit down with the agency. Then we make sure see when they tick the for them in the middle of the forest, somebody for the for record them or share them, otherwise it not go happen. So we need to do some outstanding work in our area on the recommendation them. That's very important and part of civic education for the family to know. Because of what they don't observe now for the rain, for this weather season, waiting for expect. If you the people subside, you get something waiting for no. Because in the West, if they send text message then to we, who they expect tornado, who they expect flood, even when they drive, they send you text message. So we need for sit down with UNA, with Moktai, EPA, and even the Ministry of Environment. For long we make, because it don't make no sense for long this kind of sophisticated, competent service, but the people don't know what's happening. They will not use them enough as we for use them. So we thank you. Last and final speaker for the panel that we'll open up to now, and the youth leader. Youth leader, you know, all the agency, the climate, MEDS, the Minister of Youth, Madam Esther Kamana, co-founder, executive director for Youth Initiative for Climate Action. What's your response? What do you want to see more of, both from the minister, but on climate action and the country? We'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay. So I will start for the Honorable Minister of the Youth. It's also very important we mention one of the out of the 5 key things that they're going to work on there for your climate smart agriculture. For make sure say youth they able to get green jobs. Where in the youth space, which we really try for you, especially under the Youth Climate Council Sierra Leone, now for make sure say youths they be actively involved and able to get access to green jobs then across the country. And when they lay emphasis on that particular side about green jobs, the one comment I will for say is in allowing youth access to the green jobs. One thing first of all, Sierra Leone, like most Sierra Leonean youths, is the idea about the climate crisis. Most of them don't understand. And when Mr. Masakoi really talk about the difference between weather and climate, I've observed the room of how everybody was silent and still because they can't go find out that this is an important information. So in as much as we are designing programs for youth on green skills, you made mentions of them having university counselors where they're able for going and able for cancel them on courses. I think that's a very unique start for most people who want to tap into climate agriculture. Most importantly, climate smart agriculture for make sure say we continue for produce more than we produce now, and youth are leading that force. Another aspect is also when it comes to the skills development. They talk about how most of these skills development therefore benefit 70% of women and also 30% of people living with disability. I think that's a good strategy. But however, we want to know as youth, maybe as the Ministry of Youth, for make sure their skills development where they bring, how accessible is it going to be to the youth? Because most of the time we hear a lot of conversation about projects they want for income, things they want for introduce to the youth, but then access to it. We don't want to make when these opportunities then come, they only be designated to certain people. When we speak about vulnerability, just as this program they go, it is done in Creole, in a language where every Sierra Leonean able for yearly and understand exactly what we talk. But then how these skills they able for accessible, being accessible to vulnerable people away in suburb villages, they are not educated, they have never been to school, they don't have access to technology, how are these jobs going to be available to them. When it comes to EPA's work and within the regional country, the only comment I have is now we get to this climate council Sierra, and we set the guys so much hard to make sure that we complement their work. And part of that is having a nationwide consultations we will really talk about when the lights will go off. And one of the key things that we highlight is to see how youth can be able for day in things like that. But in as much as we talk about policies, in as much as SLMs, they talk about how this climate, therefore, how the weather therefore affects with this time, and the possible impacts the way therefore in the country. If youths they know about these policies, how they be able for sit down at rooms with all these big people with big policies, and able for influence them. When they talk about inclusion most of the time, Honorable Minister, sometimes we just want to talk about meaningful engagement on the surface level base. But then are youth really present in the room? Are they making a huge percentage of the documents being submitted to international countries or even in international entities? So these are things that we, I think, say we need to pay attention. And so youth them also in the room, looking at policies, following information about forecasts, about waiting, EP or even youth-led organizations that do about the climate crisis is very important, because climate issues is not a governmental issue, it's not political issues, it's a matter of human rights, it's a matter of your safety, it's a matter of your health, and also your well-being as a citizen of Sierra Leone. Each and every one of you gets a role we play for able to mitigate the effects of climate change in the country. And each of them roles then they start with a single step we give for take in your community. You can start for say this 2 quarter when they don't give you before you left this room, you able for take the plastic bottles out of the hall. That's one thing you can able for do as a citizen. You can start for say when I'm going to be host, the government only for kind of the community for clean the gutters and for actually go and lead actions on that. That's one thing you can do for mitigating the effects of climate change that's around you. You can start for say as a civil society organization, every program where I get able to include marginalized groups, them, vulnerable groups, them part of the programs, them for listening to them, for able to take their contributions into account, so that when we set able for meet with stakeholders and tables like this, we'll be able to bring them forward.
Thank you very much to the youth leader. The conversation is always enriched by young people. And I think we already some clear questions and challenges calling for greater inclusion, greater voice on the table, but the overwhelming message we need to take now that climate issues, not a government issue alone, they require every one of we. Everybody in EU sphere, you can do something for every. For to protect the environment and for to do better. This is a part of real work as well in the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. Inside we civic education strategy we launched last year. The pillars there, number 1 are for long salon, number 2 fit salon, number 3 are for clean salon with our climate, environmental justice. Number 4 are for heal salon with a focus on public health. Number 5 are for digitized salon with our technology and innovation. And number 6, a salon for we all with this idea of radically including everybody in everything we do. All right. Now, I'll take follow get to questions. We don't get some questions that come online. I will read them quickly, but I will come to one before they respond. So I will take notes for the questions and then I will try and combine them. We lost around 15 to 20 minutes. Somebody say, a junior say, which are the comprehensive strategy that we plan for implement for tackle dual challenge of high unemployment and rampant drug use among young people? So I mean, this is this question I think you already answer part of them at least, but then question that come before the program starts. The second question, this is an anonymous questioner. We know the strategy the way EPA don't put in place for tackle some of the environmental challenges them, especially during the rainy season. Another one for Joe, say what's not the EPA, what's the EPA they do about Aberdeen Creek? We say don't rapidly be reclaimed and used for bill hostel. See even at the back of the Salon Toys board and they observe rapid control and they collaborate with Chairman KKY in presidential initiative for climate PI CRIF in terms of designing and implementing climate change related policies and projects. I'll also have the outline. So when I will take notes of that question, and they will come back. When I want until they start on the side, we'll see the answer there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out of 7 for now. If I do it fast, then we'll take as many as possible because we need to make room for the time. Yes, sir.
98.1. The question is going to the Minister of Youth. The predecessor undertake or implement certain projects regarding youth in agriculture, youth in fisheries, car wash, and so many of them. But I'm not hearing you talk about the existing projects today. Which now you take on the projects today. And you talk about agriculture, regarding youth in agriculture projects, where you predecessor will undertake. We think about be different from the youth in agriculture project when an existing project at the ministry.
Thank you.
Yeah, honored debate, Mr. Youth Affairs Minister. Why did you limit your program for the youth just to 3 years? Couldn't you have gone beyond 3 years? Thank you.
So the question will go to EP.
Economics for an email. Allow solo their clients.
So the question will go to EP. We don't see climate from we did say we are getting more in this year. So one area we see they face a lot of climate disaster and the area of sea level rise and coastal erosion. So I want for like EP tell me how they be able to mitigate the coastal erosion and sea level rise in Sierra Leone.
Thank you.
My name is Sierra Leone from Pan-African Student Voice. The question will go to the Minister of Youth. And since we did the outbreak of mpox, now we get to sisters every day into prostitution. Which like plan policy say you work with them within this so that they will actually quit that particular job that they do when they listen or work and responsible for the young people that they are things at this point in time.
And the next question, that's the Kagasa, Minister of the Radio. Yes.
Ibrahim Salas is the voice of Salon Radio. Youth Minister, sir. And as you don't take over the Ministry of Youth, now we get the car wash project we on meet the targeted areas. We, the former minister, you predecessor, they say they will employ 2,100 youth over the car wash center. Now they don't privatize the car wash centers there. So as a minister, and also for recover also the money they pay to the car wash, when the car wash center will be paid back as a loan. As a minister, how you will able make sure say you improve the livelihood for the young people then and then car wash centers and then car wash centers and they will not on use now. How you will able for CC young people then get access to it for use?
Thank you very much. Yes, Silva.
The question goes to the chairman for the parliament. Would you believe the protection agency, the non-formal for long term? So there's something I can't tell you say. I'm going to commit yourself on theory. We're going to dedicate yourself to the practical side of life. We don't get question right. One, this will just be very exposed in protection agency because you see a lot of maintenance rates. What we expect now for the collaboration with the city council to protect the class. Two, we also expect you also for the collaboration with the Minister of Lands. People that live in the house are not supposed to live, and this is the rental rain is all the people wake up and will fall because of a lot of environmental disaster. Three, we also expect a protection agency for ensuring when you drive from Bianco now, They will see how they treat them on the highway where they're supposed to cross. We always expect to say, for get used to just like this one come. For then you tell this super say, for they identify you stay where they go, but they will stay where they be any rocks them. For identify the so they go before they move the rocks there before they see happen. Permit Mr. because Mr. Minister will always get a problem here. If they bring in very important people that ask questions go get limited time. But pick me now go to the meteorological officer, sir. Yes, sir. We know that God has the days. We know God has the days when I've been trained begin 18 months we get a pass in geography for studying meteorology because of the new technological advancements. But there is a problem. Ask anybody when they go home or when they're in their office. Open any international television. You know who embassies are ruled from where are we? Well, two. I will forget the climate issue correct. Meteorology and block. But there is a problem. But you should remember saying if we dedicate ourselves by English, we as Africans will miss the point. Why is it that we are not going to transfer? Let them the meteorological messages in Creole, whether in national language per se, or in Mendewe goes to the south, in Tenewe goes to the north, and so on, so people will understand because just as I tell you, there is a problem. When people never want to see, when you pray the nature of the video. Thank you. I bring you, sir. Information. You tell me, you don't go Gambia, you don't go Poloko, you therefore combat this information at this country because I think you take the traditional education track. Now you listen to quite a lot of locals in the talk. One, before you go there, let people that really understand what the president bill they do. One. Two, two, what do you understand? Why they make use of misinformation we stand for correct? Then we just say up, or do you need to go back where you don't all the system for a short say, come 2028, we'll not go get structural appetite again, we'll not go get violence after election, everybody will know what the government will do and they will make a righteous society go. And thank you, sir.
Clap inside, don't ask for now. So the president is not right. Thank you, sir.
Mohammed Usman Langura, publisher, Capital Times newspaper. I get a question for the Minister of Youth, and that's of EPA. But I will start with EPA. EPA, I want to know if you will publish breakdown of how climate adaptation fund can use and whose community will benefit. Breakdown of climate adaptation fund and whose community will benefit. Then two, really, despite our mandates, but we don't experience a lot of illegal construction of houses, deforestation, we don't lead to a lot of climate issues. Waiting at the EPA, their strength, or waiting they do for make them protect the environment from all the disasters. The Minister of Youth. Really, you vision the question, waiting EPA.
It's okay, I'll repeat, just go.
Okay, Minister of Youth, you vision it clear, never make it succeed. But you say it gets 3 key areas for 3 years. 3. 4? 3. Okay. Now 3. We say 3. Yes. You vision for like integrate the youth into the agricultural value chain is commendable. Yeah. Now, whose plan when you get to address the structural barriers? for access to land, finance, way of finance and markets, where they link the use money out for make them benefit from the agricultural products. Thank you.
Somebody asked a question that was in a PhD. Thesis 9 week of Alright. We get quite a lot of questions, mostly for the minister and EPA. So make we respond to the question and we come back to now. We'll start with Mr. Minister. Mr. Minister, question they around continuity, which you build or which your predecessor will doing, and the status of the work that your predecessor will do, which make you limit your projects or your vision. You put time there. One board I want to ask what you do with commercial sex workers, if you go help them formulate the preferred alternative. Another one ask about car wash enterprise in them. You say what you do for improve the livelihood of people who really into that. Somebody else will ask for Kush before that, and then the last question with a plan for address structural barriers and for access by young people to finance and businesses. Over to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you very much.
No, put 4 minutes up there. Mr. Minister, for summarize the answer then. 4, go.
Okay, so quickly, green jobs is the idea of climate change crisis. Yes. Every strategic vision one highlight already gets an existing project or funding or potential funding in the developmental space. So when I talk about agriculture, you will ask that question, which are the plans for reducing structural barriers. So in the strategic vision, clearly states say from the status of youth in both, you get 74% will make up that 35% youth population. We don't get access to land. You will get access to land, and land they will be smart generational land that they use. So we improve that. So with that strategic vision, with the Ministry of Fiscal can be together with the Ministry of Agriculture, because whatever we do, the complements the Ministry of Agriculture. We therefore ensure we get access or we get access to agricultural inputs to the math projects we get. Don't forget they get plenty support to the FSRP and other projects there. And then all of those things are intentionally youth-led. But until you leverage, you create a pathway on how you will leverage on our they carry on doing. So that is why we are very intentional how we do. So as starts with people talk say we get the youth then, or train them, incubate them, on then here. But the incubating process, firstly you have to do the psychosocial mentality. Because better people say agriculture should be used as a livelihood and not just for out-of-month business. And in the process of you training them, you also need, through the Ministry of Youth, through your scheme, you get access to land. Currently, the ministry there over 30,000 hectares of land all over the country. Masiaka, I have 1 million youth pilot projects. We have 258 acres there. We have 1,091. Kamchali, we have 1,000 there. We have other 1,000 at Tongolini, we have 4,000 at Kabbalah. All these, they are documented. But we intend to increase more because the model is sitting and follow the chief of these farms. And then we get for the Ministry of Local Government, the chief them, to make them access to the youth market, to their land there at no cost. However, we then come in now to support from Ministry of Agriculture and other agencies for do the land preparation. Because if you're not prepared the land, no youth is going to be interested in agriculture, just for answering. And so we also need to provide farm inputs. Yeah, number one. And then the access to finance, there comes in the entrepreneurial aspect. So if we don't take you, we don't train on planting pepper, you will not cultivate the land for you every day, we will not help you for planting pepper. By so doing and training the trade yourself to plant that pepper. And so moving forward, and moving forward now, when you don't plant the first pepper, you don't sell. This is why SLPMC and even the Ministry of Food on the board, we help you harvest the pepper and sell. The whole sell, you can agree on the percentage ratio, but you can be like 70-30%. You on our way, then at the group will get 70% of the proceeds, which is not money. Now they serve as startup kits for now that they take now for continue down and trade day. So that's the model because from the previous you report when you put it right, every money when they give you is bad and they put it and then we buy the trade again. But we know we give you money, they help you with the trade, and we will say once you don't land on that trade, the money now you will use that, the profits you will use that for continuity. And then existing projects, this is very interesting. Yes, we're using car wash day. If you're even I talk on building fisheries projects. I said million goal or million vision or value addition. For example, we get more fishing boats the way out. Mr. Interest, you say out of let's say 100% of the fishing boats, we already get 20% don't pay off from the report one because we have a private sector intervention. But we don't know enough. So what's that new strategy basically? And how we will knock on doors to Ministry of Agriculture today and governments of Sierra Leone as organization how we able to do value addition to the supply chain. Catch the fish then at sea, can get a cooling facility, preserve the fish there for a week or two, so we get fish for sale all year round. Ask, we see that the way they do. Sometimes they go to market, they see this one raw fish. Not so. So how we want to ensure say very consistent raw fish in the market? That's the focus. Additionally, Siba they will tell you they don't live overseas. They will say fish fillet, chicken fillet. So how we also able to teach the sister them it's just for smoke the fish for sale, but even that raw fish to process that into fillet. Go and see. I go Solima last weekend. You see Solima the lobster Bengali. Looks like about first you come on. Then they pack the lobster inside tray. They sell and give after Golden for no cost. Lobster will big like this name. Muscle. Yeah? If you go now, the hog now you want to eat lobster, it will cost you close to 1 million or 1,000. So how do you add value to that lobster and Solima? That could be another one. And you come now to the car wash project. The reason why we bring skills development, car wash is not a skill. Car wash is just an activity. It is good. But what we go do for complement the car wash facility? This is why we are bringing skill development. If you follow, just 2 weeks ago, the Chief Minister launched the Automotive Center of Excellence in Kisi, GTI. So that's just a pilot. What we intend for do, and I'm happy we have more women there. So what we intend for do, we will do hands-on training for as many women as we can, including the car wash people. Or we give prepare the Okada there, or we give prepare small and even the car wash facility. If once we get the funds, we also create or organize the facility. When you say you pump tire or make tire, in addition to the car wash, you for repair keke, and just pump tire and make tire and do basic. I want to that kind of big, massive automotive routine we do. And then the other one say 3 years, where you do project management. For let the project qualify for the project, you don't forget timeline. So number one timeline, in like 3 years, because 2025, 2028, now we get the next session. And then the last one, the answer, the MPOX. If you follow yesterday, Ministry of Youth, myself, with the Bike Riders President, and then the National Youth Council President, we engage Dr. Polisa and the Public Health Emergency. And now we go meet her because we want for intervene. Our best minister came with the MPOX with over 2,000 cases now. And he was pretty much pleased, and we don't draw the roadmap. So the Bike Rider President and the National Youth Commission President, and then we Director of Policy, they're part of the task force with me for support. So we are embarking on this, and then discipline and advocacy. But we have a strategy how we get to sister off the street. We have 2 skills development. Fashion design, of sister and 2 clothes every week. So if we get them to train them into fashion design, you're not going to tell them to know way. Into fashion design, not just one. You get them to train them into several other activities. But the whole goal here is we have to ensure we get TV centers at every district. TV center will be large on the existing tertiary institution already, the side that we know create new one, but also then they work on programs, so it will be TV center. And we say, even the one that we don't get certificates for now, like here, someone will be well, someone will be a plumber, but they don't get certificates. We can do a small incubating program for them and take them through, and then we'll certify them. When an NCTBA certificate you get, but we have all those consultation with the mining companies. The mining companies, Chamber of Commerce, a lot of other people were involved. And Mr. Minister, this I will conclude for saying you have a role to play in this, a very big role, because none of this, if not work on the mindset, it's just we're pouring water on talks back. Because then when they say grassroots, right, your body, and the first will be for work on no say, your future is in the hands, the opportunity they need, but if you also know avail yourself, then it will just be effortless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for your comprehensive response. EPA, I want to deal with the coastal climate issues, threats. The next question about the Leone expose some of the structural failures of EPA in terms of the prevention mechanisms they want to take or not to take, so it's not a response to that. If UK will publish the use of climate adaptation resources broken down by areas of the country as well. You brought on for that. Somebody talk about illegal construction of homes, what EPA to do for protect the environment. So I think broad contours of your question in that way. Yeah.
Firstly, I really want to tell you plenty thank you, Honorable Minister, for inviting you here today. Because the questions we are against the show why important to disabuse the public using the platform here of the notion, the wrongful notion of voting and EPA responsibilities. It show clearly most of it and the public and most of it and the media probably don't understand voting and the functions of the Environment Protection Agency. And I'm going to spend some time for highlights, putting us up on the wrong notions we want to hold. And I hope say by the time I will also successfully disabuse that. And this is the reason we organized the Pulse Survey last year, a collaborative learning and adaptive session in March, for at least expose the public, introduce the public, I would say, to most of what we do, and the media particularly, so that we understand what are the differences, distinction between what are the responsibilities, and what in the other ministries, departments, and agencies do, on the basis of the EPA Act of 2022. I want to invite you all, particularly when the media will there, for read the EPA Act of 2022, so that we clearly understand what are the primary, secondary, and tertiary functions. Let's begin with the last question on urban metabolism, urban consumerism, and waste we produced from the economic processes today. Anything we concern waste management or waste systems in urban areas, not only EPA responsibility that. When they devolved to the councils, and the free town city council they have responsibility. The EPA don't get nothing to do with that beyond the research we conduct into how it's structured, looking at the important prevalences, how it's affected by some climate extremes we discussed. We have data we local governments require for able to plan properly and able to deal with the things in the fairly, equitably, and sustainably. The same answer applies to what we do, but people will build on the hillsides. So the EPA not get primary country planning function, but we responsibility for the size of what we build or how we go ahead in the kind of construction day. If the development activity, voting qualified for EIA licensing or permitting on the basis of what is defined in the first schedule of the Act, then we're responsible to make sure they evaluate the risks. So that development activity will go on in the manner where it will not affect the public, it will affect the communities, and it will be sustainable. The impact as well will last over time. So beyond licensing and permitting, we don't get any responsibility in corporate planning. The EPA don't get duty in that. Same for tree cutting. The tree cutting they happen in the protected area, the Western Area Peninsula National Park. The agency were responsible for that kind of things in the National Protected Areas Authority, not to the EPA. I can understand, say the EPA predates the ministry and all of them institutions there. So the moment something happened at the environment, the first institution will always to blame at the Environment Protection Agency.
So what's an EPA in your role?
Thank you so much. Obviously, in answering the questions, I don't highlight some of the things we do. Scientific research, one of the primary functions in support of the risk planning, risk management, the having risk evaluation processes we various actors responsible for. Things like managing wetlands like the Aberdeen Creek, not to EPA responsibility there. So wetlands managed by the National Protected Areas Authority. but we support them with multi-level governance. We therefore convene the different actors we probably can learn about some data and information resources we generate over time for use and for plan and respond to the things that they adequately. We try for talk to the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change for see if we also will partake in the enforcement responsibilities with the National Protected Areas Authority. But we already reached agreement for our agency who step in for supporting the in their role in that regard. Collaborating with PIF, absolutely. So we work together on defining the country in decarbonization pathways. We include what the country can do in terms of food systems transformation, just energy transitions, energy efficiency. Kindly talk a lot about energy transitions, clean cooking stoves, etc. All of NTR will come together to define how we hope to achieve emissions neutrality by 2050. So we work together very closely, and we always inform them in most of the things that we do. Coastal erosion, we don't implement plenty interventions across coastal communities. We just don't complete research on climate-induced migration. I only highlight the kind way communities like Planting Island vulnerable to climate change. One school lost about 4 classrooms over the last 6 months. And they try for basically spotlight why it's important for respond to that day as soon as possible. So we work on work with IOM, on that research day. And we also support plenty restoration efforts. We don't lead. We also now a major implementer of the Sahel Coastal Resilience Project, $28.6 million out of Modali. We don't support most of the mangrove enhancement and value creation opportunities we the Wetlands International projects don't create over the last 3 years. We also don't support plenty livelihoods initiatives with help for enhanced global capacities across the coastal landscapes, the 5 coastal landscapes. And we don't support plenty learning, plenty things we targeted on women, the kingdom, persons with disability, for build resilience capacity at scale. And finally, what thing we do in terms of environmental challenges during rainy season, I think I begin the statement by looking at our day comprehensively, saying we're not primarily responsible for the episodic events. We mostly don't mention in our questions. We actually provide system-level solutions to the things there because the things they really will come over in the long term. And they affect plenty communities, they're so pervasive. And we do that one day by way of the policies, all the developed by way of scientific research, all the conduct, by way of learning materials, all the develop. We even recently developed the climate handbook for children. We animated, as very first ever animated climate handbook for children. We set up data storage systems which allow you to put all the information here together to guarantee on better access. So now we want for large funding applications, able for probably extend the research findings we can get from the studies that they will conduct. We also can get ground level interventions in work with communities, NDC committees, help for address of fundamental concerns with people. So we do plenty things.
All right, thank you very much to EPA. We need for get the answer there now from the Met Agency. One about, I think, comms in general, how do they communicate this in different languages we talk. But while you get the microphone for that 2 minutes, they talk about to the specific recommendation they want to get for people based on analysis of the weather patterns for this year. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. So firstly, on the recommendations, for the planting season, we observe the area like Falaba and Konadu will go forget late planting season at the start of the rain. We're going to go for a record a rainfall of 20 millimeters within 10 days without dry spell. While on the rest of the country, go forget like a kind of like an early planting season. People also give information to farmers there. Then towards the end of the season, with the constitution of the season, we also try to look into the model where we say will pick up to 70 millimeters of rain when we say the swell will hold. And we will make planting continue for do very well. We observe a late cessation of rain, which means even up to November or less of rainy season, and also for dry spell within the rainy season, just like within the start of rainy season, most part of the get like a long dry spell, while some for a less dry spell. So one recommendation, because of the risk of flooding, people will not see that risk, and because of the current situation, and will continue the business as usual, then we say they will become a kind of a disaster. So one is they will try for clean and drainage system, and also they will look for the bill now, of course, for drainage areas, to the block drainage areas, we do some assessment like we see and also people the bill now swamping areas, already the water level is up, so just few millimeters of rain, they make it cap up, and then they cause them localized flooding, and also then the coastal areas, parents for God to be more exposed to the strong wind, and then they try to take necessary precautions there, like sandbag for the high tide, and then you name them. And then definitely finally is that we try for really big journalism and others, for lot of popularize information, so I can take you down to the last mile. Then quickly to the questions when they asked, I think the first one, they touched on why we met the forecast in an international world really reflects Sierra Leone. One thing we got to know is one, Sierra Leone not extend the data that the GTS, not only Lungi, the airport will say that the GTS, so that pilot will for user. And because the several reasons is that the infrastructure during the river it was destroyed. So normally you see like the Al Jazeera, the BBC, then they give like that satellite output. You see Sabon on the map, not only comment on that. They only normally can comment on that, they say there is that high intensity of rainfall. But as an agency, we try to work with the UN body, the World Meteorological Organization. They just look at the GTS system. Currently, we upload for Makini and also for Luke, and we try to get other locations. And when other locations do not onboard them to the GTS system, then definitely we'll start now maybe through the ministries of foreign affairs and so for liaise with the different institutions and community information. But at AME and Start MD, the last one on the Sina outlook, we already designed the machine learning prototype, what we are in. Now the focus they come like animation, right? You see the map of Sierra Leone. If not fruits already become plenty, they really drop. If not Kenema, we know they drop because we want to try to move away from that text system to the real life system for people to see. And then the next one that has to do with Met is the God of climate change.
On Monday, we will therefore partner with the media houses in Poland, who will watch the writing and let's go get way that use as localized. Now the SLBC is localized, so now we partner with the media. They will move from Star Epic, we get localized, so that requires some kind of, especially when we're already animator. So then we just play out for you. Would they expect that?
Yes, in fact, your recommendation, I think I want to use now because most often, like we are the one trying to talk to these radio stations, and most often they pay them. You know, the like of UK, other areas will also where that you pay for the service, even the radio stations. So people come to they want to try for talk to the radio station, then they're able to pick up.
And get public service requirements, they need for do. It's true. It's in the law. If you upgrade your license, you therefore give a certain percentage. So on a color discuss.
So much like the likes of Capital Radio, Apple Radio, and all that.
They do it, and people listen to them just for that. So you can actually increase your viewership because of that. If you get accurate weather information. Anyway, yes, sir.
And then, of course, the climate change side. Thank you. Of course, I'm giving a UN body. Everything body talk about climate change. The first statement and the state of the climate, maybe it's at the UN Secretary General. For, of course, the GIAM and also give a reflection for the World Meteorological Organization. So now we will provide the information today. For translate the messages, it happen, but just like on the old side. I would tell you, say the first focus I ever did in Salon in 2012, now before Tumbo, but then to Shamanden and the reader into Temini and also into Creole. But we pay for the service. Just after the project, the general students will need to pay for the service today. And as I speak now, the likes of Radio Boutico, the heat weather forecast in the Shapo and the Mende, ACA also we will sign an MOU with radio station in Moyamba, Kabbalah, the Budawande, of course, even Makele. So as you rightly say, like at the Met Agency, every day we get focused away now into audio fashion. And Amazon and different groups there. But we know that recommendation is very in this tire. For make sure say at least the information again to the last person. I think the final one, I don't know this side, it asks around the information of fisherman. We give marine weather forecast on a daily basis. we get with database of fishermen and also database of sea users. Just 2 years back, we trained maritime search and rescue team for men to understand the content of the forecast, and when they do a search rescue within the sea system, they will talk to it. In which we give them like the handheld, device for configuring the Met Agency. I think one thing that's lacking I can say here is education. So Met Agency are going forward to make sure they educate now over and over and again to understand the weather itself, because it's atmospheric physics, very complex. But we'll make sure we try for the education to understand and act on that. Thank you very much.
Alright, before we go, I want to make the youth leader give the last word. You don't listen to all this. Unfortunately, you only come this side because it's already 4 o'clock. We have other things to do today. And all have been clapped for Pakama and questioning. Answer for all. So I want to apologize because of the time. We have series of other engagement. Also, the media house there can tell them 2 to 3:30. They don't cover it till the paper go force some now to news. So we cannot continue to do this. We lost the relationship over there. So yeah, just one last word for me, 1 minute, any final message to other young people on this table. Yes, please.
The final word to all youths and people who look online is that in as much as we continuously hold most agencies accountable for what they're supposed to do, or probably their responsibility in order for them to mitigate climate change. As I stated earlier, the responsibility also lies now with them as citizens of the country. And one of the work that we really do as youth organization and formation to coordinate the youth involvement into climate action. And enable for making yourself able to participate and for look out for most policies that will they ask how these organizations and institutions they currently work and rating their inputs. Read these documents. It's only when you read them for land and work them, able for understand exactly what they do. And to all other young people, then please let me take climate change as a serious threat to mankind and then able for contributing your only to be possible for mitigator.
Mr. Yeli Kamara, my name, can represent young people today, and are one of the leaders that we have to push the country go before. We thank you for your service. We tell thank you to the other distinguished panelists, the Ogea, the Honorable Ibrahim Sano, the Minister for Youth Affairs, Mr. Kevin Parker, Deputy Director General and Head of Operations for the Salomnet Agency, and Dr. Abubakar S. Masakoi, Executive Chairman EBA. 2 big news for now. Next week, Monday and Tuesday, we will be back. They will engage with the media where they cover where they are. Now, we always make sure so we do a pool system. We select a few of them to carry to every stop. Another big news. On the 17th of June, June 16 and June 17, we will host the annual presidential town hall. And this time, we will go Kenema District. And the Kenema District Hall, His Excellency the President will take questions from members of the public on the 17th of June. On the 16th of June, we have plenty event there with young people in Kenema on the 17th. So first next week, 25, 26, we will have back with plenty civic days. Then, in about 1 month from today, we will go Kenema for the annual presidential town hall. Michael dates flyers that will come out today. We put out the link already for the people that ask questions. We're going to compile all the questions today and use them as a basis for the conversation. We're going to get open, transparent conversation with the first gentleman of the state will accept or host another edition of the annual presidential town hall. Until next week, apologies for the break today. I tell you all plenty thank you and I say assalamu alaikum.